Hey everyone! Valentine's Day is coming up, so I figured I'd make a short video tutorial to show you how to make a special gift for a special someone. It's a fairly simple part. It's just a little heart shape with a nice little ring up top so that we can make this into a necklace. And lots of big flat surfaces so that you can put something like initials or a date or some other nice heartfelt little memento on here. So let's start with making a new design, and let's start with a new sketch. I'm going to be making this part looking down on the top view, so let's click on that plane to start drawing on the top view. So with this part, I'm not actually going to be adding any dimensions to anything. I'm just going to be clicking around and making a basic heart shape, and I'm going to be constraining a few of the lines together so that everything kind of fits and locks together. And then if we need to go back and resize it, it's a fairly easy thing to resize. But I want to show you how to do some sketching in a way that makes this make sense because we don't have a heart-shaped polygon we can put in. So we're going to have to make our own heart-shaped polygon. So I'm going to start by making a circle. I'm working close to the origin point here because I want this to be the middle of my heart. I'm going to draw it about this big or so. And let's start by making a circle. I'm going to put one right here. So if you're worried about dimensions, I'm 5 millimeters up from the origin, 20 millimeters over. Let's start this circle, and I'm going to go 5 mils past that origin. And I'm going to make a second one right in the same place, but opposite that. You could mirror this, but I'm just going to make a second circle. So we've got the start of our heart shape, and now I need to make a couple of lines that come down this way. So what I want to do is I want to just make a line. I want to make a line that starts somewhere on the circle, and I want it to come down here somewhere. We could do this really easily. You could click like here, and you could click down there, and you could click over here somewhere, but like we don't actually know if this has lined itself up. We want these lines to be kind of running smooth and to come smooth into this part of the circle here. So what we're actually trying to do, we want this line to be tangent to the circle. So we've got all of these lists of constraints up here that we could play with. So we're going to use this to make this line. So I'm going to go back 2 steps, delete those other couple of lines I put in. Let's go back to making a line. What I'm going to do first, I'm actually just going to draw one in here just so that we can kind of set the shape of this. I'm making the bottom point of the heart right now. So let's go, I'm just kind of doing it by eye. Let's go here or something like that. Click the check mark. So you might notice that this line is a little bit different than the circles I drew in. I just kind of plonked the circles down. I didn't say where in space they should be. I never dimensioned the radius or diameter of the circle. And so they are blue in outline, meaning that I haven't constrained them in any way. This black line here, it has one constraint currently. And this one constraint is called a a horizontal or a vertical constraint. It's not horrible. It's really very useful. Right now, this constraint is saying that this line, it's attached to the origin there, and it needs to stay vertical to that origin point. Okay, cool. So if that line is constrained, then in theory, I should be able to draw a line in here somewhere, just plonking it out in space. And then I should be able to make a tangent constraint of this line and constrain it to this circle. Now, it's not going to work. It did work. I mean, it's sitting now tangent to that circle, but this point down here shifted on me, and I don't want that. So let's go back. I want the line to be this long exactly. I know how long this line is because I spaced it out in my brain. So if I know how long I want this to be and I want that dimension to stay exactly the same, another constraint that you can add to things is not actually a constraint, but adding a dimension to a line actually constrains it. Because now that you've told it specifically this line needs to be 55 millimeters long, the line is not going to move from being 55 millimeters long. Now, if we do this, let's finish. Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to finish that sketch. Let's go back to edit. Now, in theory, if I click this and I click this, it should go tangent to it, but... Oh, it did. That's good. the last thing that we need to do is trim off this extra bit of the line here that remains. I also need this to be on the other side. So let's do that. Let's create a mirror. We're going to be mirroring just this one sketch feature, and I'm going to mirror it on our little construction line here. There we go. So now we've got a bunch of lines everywhere. We don't need some of them to be there anymore. In fact, it'd be better if they weren't, because I want just this shape here. So I'm going to use the interactive trim tool, which is a pretty handy feature of Fusion, and trim every line that I don't think needs to exist, like this. These black lines don't actually exist. Those are the dimension lines to show you what is the dimension of this line here. If I take this line out, we are going to be removing a constraint. But that's fine because everything was kind of built after that. So let's finish this sketch now. And we have a heart shape. Beautiful. A lot of these things can be edited. So if you go back into the sketch and you edit the sketch, and you wanted to say make the point down a little bit further, you could do that. If you had added a dimension to the circles, you could edit the dimension of the circles as well to change these things. This is good enough for now, though. So we've got a 2D sketch. I need to make this a 3D part. So now I'm going to extrude and pull this piece out. Just kind of do this by eye until it looks right. I want this heart to be, I don't know, about 1 inch wide or so, and maybe a 1/2 inch thick. If you're working in millimeters, I would say it would be, I don't know, 10 millimeters thick or so. I think I've messed up the scale, so I'm going to scale this later on. Let's just say 30 millimeters just to keep it simple. It works, but it's kind of blocky. Let's go back to my original one here. You see it's got some nice rounded corners everywhere. So I think we should put rounded corners on this one too. So let's add a fillet to this shape. So what a fillet does is it adds this nice little round over on the edges that you select. You need to actually select the edge itself. We may as well do all of them all at once. I want the backside to also have this nice fillet, so let's pick all 4 of these edges. When you're making the fillet, you can do this by eye. Oh, it doesn't like to go too far. Let's do 5 millimeters. That looks good. I think if you try to go more than 5 millimeters, it's having an issue with this point in here, that middle point. It just can't quite compute. Oh, something weird's going on. That's like all fillet. Let's go there, 5 millimeters. All right, so now we've got these nice little rounded corners everywhere. Beautiful. I'm going to make a necklace out of this. So I want to make some kind of nice little loopy ring up here somewhere. It doesn't need to be in the middle. It could be off to the side. There's lots of ways. I really want you to customize this. I'm just trying to show you what I'm doing just to give you an example here. So I want to make a sketch now, and I want to put this ring in here. But I kind of want this ring to be like sitting in the middle. So if I make a sketch and I make the sketch on this plane, I'm not really sketching where I actually want it to be. So what I'm going to do, instead of making a sketch, I'm going to construct an offset plane, but not this offset plane. I'm actually just going to do a midplane. You can set an offset off of a side like this, and you can tell it exactly how far you want it to go. What I want to do is a midplane, because it's a little bit simpler. You don't need to add any dimensions. You just click once, click the other side, and now that there are 2 sides selected, it understands that you want to put a sketching plane in the middle of this part. So now I can make a sketch. I'm going to pick that plane that I just made. Now I'm drawing in the middle of my part. And I need to put some kind of a loop in there to make all of this make sense. So I'm just going to make a simple circle. Again, I'm just spacing this out by eye just so that it looks good. Let's do it down here. And I'm going to go out, let's say, 30 millimeters. And I'm going to make a second circle from the same center point. Let's make this one go out 40. So now that we've got these 2 circles, hopefully midway through the shape, Let's finish the sketch. Finish the sketch. There we go. And I want to pull this part out. Not the middle, just this one ring around the outside here. I could pull it out towards the front. I could pull it out towards the back. I want to make sure that this actually goes out symmetrically both ways. So that as we pull this out, it's coming out from the middle in both dimensions. Now, because we're kind of, like our sketch is cutting into the other shape, the program assumes you want to cut away from the other shape. That's not what I want to do. I want to join this. If this was a mechanical part, like two pieces that were moving and you needed them to be able to move independent of each other, you would probably want to make a new body or component. But for this simple 3D printed one-piece part, I want to join the pieces together so that everything all gets glued together. Great. Very close. But again, it's got blocky lines. Hard, sharp lines. In real life, hard, sharp lines like this don't really exist. Like, pull your phone out of your pocket for a second and try to find a hard, sharp line on it. I don't think you will be able to. Humans just don't like the look of hard, sharp lines. This also isn't all that strong. If you think about it, all of the weight, and if you kind of grab this and pull it from the necklace, this part would be prone to break off. So we're going to add a couple more fillets to this so that it looks a little nicer and it makes a little more sense. Let's start with the important ones. We should add a fillet. I'm going to put one here, 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 and here. 4 lines. And I'm just going to click and drag until it looks about right. 5 mil, 7.5. That looks fairly good. It's kind of chunky, maybe a little bit less. Let's do 5 millimeters. That looks nice. What I'm kind of aiming for is that the curves kind of blend into each other. It's pleasing to the eye. Okay, so that worked out. And now we've got a much stronger handle here. We still got these sharp lines, so I'm going to try to fix those. I don't want to go too crazy on them, but I want to get 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just give it a 1 millimeter fillet. So it just gives it a nice little, just a nice little round over. All right. So if this is what you plan on giving your special somebody, this is totally acceptable. If you have been in my class before, I'd say this is a pretty basic project and you should add to it or modify it or do whatever you like, but this is the basic design. One modification that I think everybody would be happy to make. Let's make a sketch on one of these front surfaces like this. I'm looking at the top. That looks good. And as I'm making this sketch, I want to add some text in here. And pick a point. I'm going to pick the center point right about there to start typing. Oh, right. No, I probably want that to be over there. Pick a font that looks nice. Something really Valentine's Day-ish. Like Comic Sans. I think the height's good. And let's type in the text. Let's do some initials here. RB, that's my initials. And ZZ, because my partner's name is ZZ. And let's maybe center it in the box and hit OK. And if you double click on this shape, we can rotate the text around to your heart's content to maybe make it over here, something like that. Let's hit OK. And you should be able to move these pieces around. And so let's pull them over, something like that. And then I'm going to finish that sketch. So this text here is a sketch, and I'm just going to poke these pieces in to my part. Oh, the text isn't showing up. Let's try that again. I want to extrude just the text. And push you in just a little bit. Maybe not that much. Maybe just 1 millimeter. And there we go. Gorgeous. Basic. But you know what? It's the thought that counts. It's Valentine's Day. Nothing quite says I care about you on Valentine's Day like spending $0 on them and making your own thing that you're 3D printing. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Catch you on the next one.